the execution chamber on Corin Station, had never held a human prisoner before. Judge Overseer Kel Marat stood on the raised dais, his four clawed hands folded behind his back, watching the small figure kneeling in the containment ring below. Around the circular chamber, representatives from 11 alien systems had gathered to witness what the Ostari Compact called final judgment. The execution of Lieutenant Commander Ray Alvarez, accused of destroying an Ostari listening post during what humanity insisted was an act of self-defense. "You had a choice," Marat said, his voice amplified through the chamber. "Surrender your fleet's tactical data, and your sentence would have been mercy, exile. Instead, you chose silence. Do you understand what that silence has cost you?" Alvarez lifted his head, bruised, exhausted, hands bound behind him, and somehow, impossibly, still calm. "You keep calling it impossible," Alvarez said quietly. "The thing my fleet did to your listening post. You should probably stop calling it that." Marat's mandibles clicked with irritation. "Impossible, because no vessel in this quadrant carries a weapon capable of what you did. Our analysts have studied the wreckage for 6 days. There is no explanation. Which means you are lying about something, likely a weapon your government wants desperately to hide. Or," Alvarez said, "you're just now learning something you should have found out 9 years ago." Nobody in that chamber understood how close they were to a truth that would shatter everything they believed about human weakness. Judge Overseer Marat raised a hand, signaling the execution to proceed. The containment ring's inner field began to hum, preparing to collapse inward, and then every screen in the chamber flickered to static. A new image appeared. Fleet Admiral Naomi Chen, standing calmly on the bridge of a ship none of them recognized, speaking directly into every channel across Corin Station. "Before you finish that execution, Judge Overseer, I'd like you to look outside your station window." Marat's confidence cracked for the first time. Slowly, he turned toward the observation port. Silence swallowed the chamber whole. What waited outside changed everything they thought they understood about the weak, primitive species they'd almost just killed. 9 days earlier, the listening post hadn't been innocent. Humanity had suspected as much for months, but suspicion wasn't proof. And Earth's fragile new treaty with the Ostari Compact depended on restraint. Commander Ray Alvarez commanded the scout frigate Persistence, assigned to monitor the demilitarized border zone between human and Ostari space. He wasn't a decorated war hero. He was, by his own admission, an unremarkable officer who'd spent most of his career doing quiet, unglamorous reconnaissance work. That changed the night his sensors detected an Ostari listening post actively tracking human colony ship movements, a direct violation of the treaty both governments had signed 3 years earlier. "Confirm the signal," Alvarez told his sensor officer, Lieutenant Priya Nair. "Confirmed, sir. They've been monitoring colony traffic patterns for at least 4 months. This isn't passive surveillance. They're building a strike map." Alvarez felt his stomach tighten. A strike map meant only one thing. Someone in the Ostari military was preparing for something the treaty was supposed to prevent. He sent an emergency report back to Earth Command and received an answer he hadn't expected. "Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. Withdraw and monitor only." But before the Persistence could withdraw, the listening post's automated defenses activated, apparently interpreting the frigate's presence as a threat. A single defensive strike tore through the Persistence's shields, critically wounding 6 crew members and disabling life support on 2 decks. Alvarez had a choice to make in under 10 seconds, and it would define the next 9 days of his life. "Return fire," Alvarez ordered. "Minimum force. Disable, don't destroy." But minimum force from a wounded, cornered human warship was still enough. The listening post's reactor, damaged by the Persistence return volley, went critical and destroyed the station entirely, along with classified Ostari surveillance data that proved the treaty violation beyond doubt. The Ostari government, embarrassed and furious that their secret operation had been exposed, twisted the narrative entirely. Alvarez wasn't a defender who'd survived an unprovoked attack. He was, according to Ostari state media, a war criminal who'd slaughtered peaceful researchers without warning. Earth's diplomatic corps protested. Ambassador Sarah Kimura presented censor logs proving the treaty violation. The Ostari Compact refused to acknowledge any of it, demanding Alvarez be surrendered for trial. Earth had a choice: abandon one of their own to a rigged tribunal, or risk a war neither side could easily win. Fleet Admiral Naomi Chen, commanding Earth's Third Fleet, argued fiercely against surrender in a tense session of the Unified Defense Council. "If we hand him over, We're telling every species in this galaxy that human officers can be sacrificed whenever it's politically convenient, she said. That's not a precedent we can afford. But the Council, desperate to avoid open war with a species that outnumbered humanity's fleet by nearly 6-1, made the difficult call anyway. We surrender him. Council Chair Dmitry Orlov said quietly, and we prepare something the Ostari Compact will never expect. No one outside a small circle of engineers and officers knew exactly what prepare meant. That secrecy would soon terrify an entire alien government. For 6 years, Earth's research division had quietly developed something called Project Anchor Point. Not a weapon designed to destroy, but one designed to arrive faster and more precisely than anything in known space. While other civilizations raced to build bigger ships and stronger shields, human engineers pursued a different question entirely. What if the ship itself was never the target? Chief Scientist Dr. Wen Li explained it to Admiral Chen during final testing. We're not sending a fleet, Admiral. We're sending a promise. If they hurt him, that promise becomes very hard to ignore. When news reached Earth that Alvarez's execution had been scheduled aboard Corin Station, Admiral Chen didn't hesitate. Deploy the anchor fleet, she ordered. Full silent approach. No hostile action unless the execution proceeds. What the Ostari sensors couldn't detect was already halfway to their most secure station in the quadrant. Back in the execution chamber, Judge Overseer Marat stared through the observation port in stunned silence. Outside Corin Station, arranged in perfect, motionless formation, hung 40 human warships, vessels that Ostari long-range sensors had never once detected approaching. That's impossible, Marat whispered, echoing the very word he'd used to condemn Alvarez minutes earlier. Admiral Chen's voice returned through every speaker in the chamber. You called our technology impossible, because you never imagined humans would build ships capable of masking their approach entirely. We didn't come here to start a war, Judge Overseer. We came to prevent one, and to bring our officer home. Your officer destroyed Ostari property and killed. Your officers illegally tracked civilian colony ships in violation of a treaty your government signed, Chen interrupted, calm but unyielding. We have the sensor data. We have proof, and we have 40 ships currently capable of disabling every defense system on that station before your council finishes debating whether to believe us. The council chamber, once so certain of its authority, now understood exactly how badly they'd misjudged the people they'd almost executed. Marat's hands trembled, pride warring with survival instinct. Around him, several council representatives from neutral alien systems exchanged uneasy glances, quietly recalculating everything they thought they knew about human capability. Release him, Chen said quietly. Return the sensor data proving what really happened at that listening post. And let's discuss how to keep this treaty from breaking down any further, because neither of us actually wants the war today could have started. After a long, heavy silence, Marat finally raised a hand, deactivating the containment ring. Ray Alvarez rose slowly to his feet, exhausted but alive, as security escorts hesitantly moved to release his restraints. 3 weeks later, a revised treaty between Earth and the Ostari Compact was signed aboard neutral territory. One with stronger verification measures on both sides, and a quiet new addition that few outside diplomatic circles noticed. An agreement that no officer from either side would ever again face trial without full transparency and shared evidence. Ray Alvarez, reinstated to active duty, stood beside Admiral Chen during the signing ceremony. Thank you for not giving up on me, he told her quietly. Chen shook her head. We didn't come because you were important, Commander. We came because leaving you behind would have told the whole galaxy exactly who we really are. And that's not a story we were willing to let someone else write for us. As the ceremony ended, and diplomats from a dozen worlds began filing out, Judge Overseer Marat approached Alvarez one final time, his earlier arrogance replaced by something far more thoughtful. You said I should stop calling it impossible, Marat said. I owe you an apology for that word. Alvarez offered a tired but genuine smile. Don't apologize for being wrong, Judge Overseer. Just remember it next time you're tempted to underestimate someone. That single exchange, quietly recorded, and later shared across a dozen news networks throughout known space, became the moment the galaxy stopped calling humanity's quiet strength an impossibility and started calling it a promise worth respecting.